In this video, we're going to see how to take a basic profile like this one on the left-hand side and turn it into something looking like this on the right-hand side. We're going to be adding some scales, looking at maybe adding some averages and calculations to the right pane, and other options we see here. We can also change all the colors and things like that. Okay, so let's get at it. So we're starting with this profile, and we're assuming you can do this. This is just a basic no-frills profile. If you need to know how to do this, there's another video on how to get here. So the first step we're going to do in adding things to it is we'll open up Profile Properties. Here we'll be looking at the Format tab, the Info tab, and the Option tab. On the Format tab, we'll be specifically looking at the options in here and the options right here. So first off, let's look at these checkmark boxes up here on the top. If we checkmark these, it starts removing or adding pieces of our plot, and you can see a little preview of what little pieces will be on the final display here on the right. If I uncheck timescale, the timescale goes away. I can also remove these histograms that are on the top and the bottom here. CD plot detail and time plot detail. And also, if I click list tag names, I'll see some tag names listed underneath my data if I drop that down. We'll see that in just a moment. Also, I have the option with scales down here to add a cross-directional scale, a width scale, and a control scale. So these are three separate horizontal scales. And if I just click them all, you can see that they get added here in this preview. And then when I say OK, they'll all be added to my display. Now, what they are, let's go back here. The cross-directional scale, this lists your tag numbers. For me, I have 600, so it lists 1 to 600. The width scale, that's something completely defined by you and probably intended to be to correlate with the width of your scanner. So if your scanner is 8 feet long, you might type 8 in there. Then control, this has a number of boxes that each get displayed. So again, you can see my middle one here, 1 to 600, that's the number of tags I have. Then my width scale, 0 to 8. And my control boxes, I have 10 in this case. Now, you can have any of these or none of these or all of these if you want them. You just have to check them. For space reasons, I'm going to disable a couple of them. So we'll disable this one and this one. And we'll move on to viewing this one. If I list tag names here, you'll notice here on the right-hand side, the tag names are listed. If I need to track down specific tags. And again, for space reasons, we'll disable that. All right, moving on to the other tags, other tabs over here, info and option. Well, option is pretty similar to the format, except it's just lots of details. So here you can change the color of just about anything you want to on this display. So for example, the plot outline color, if blue just isn't your thing, you can change it to something a little bit more aggressive, like red. Say OK, and now I've got a red outline, yeah. Okay, and if you ever have changed a lot of stuff and you just want to go back home, you can hit this button down here, default values, and it will return everything to our defaults, which I think look pretty nice. So you might want to stick with them. Okay, so that's most of the things with the option tab. There's lots of different options to go with, but they're all pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. On the info tab, this is where we can do some interesting things as far as what is displayed over here in the right-hand pane. So to start with, there's nothing here. And if we add something, let's see what options we have. So we can do a tag or a calculation. We'll start with a tag. Here you can just type in whichever tag you want. So for me, I'm going to type in my favorite tag. Well, I have many favorite tags. Sinusoid. And I'll label it sinusoid. There we go. When I say OK, if you look here on the right-hand side, now there's an info box and it shows the value of the tag sinusoid at different times. As I click around my plot, that value will change. It changes to what the value of whatever sinusoid was at the time I'm clicking. So if I click along the same horizontal axis, the value won't change. So that's just the start. I can add other ones too. I can add any other tag I want to that's on my Pi server. It doesn't need to be shown in this profile. It doesn't need to have anything to do with this profile. You can add it here. But then let's look at what calculations can do. So a calculation is something based on the information on this profile. Let's start with scan. So scan and average. What this is going to do is it's going to take an average of the scan you have selected. Each scan is one row of your profile. So this is essentially a row average. So now, if I select different rows of my profile, I'll get a different average over there on the right-hand pane. And I can see that as I click through here, looks like my average generally was increasing. And again, if I click on the same row, the average doesn't change. Now, as you probably guessed, you can do a column average, which will show an average for one tag over time, since the vertical axis is time. But then there's this other one in here called a region. So now a region will take an average over a whole two-dimensional area. So here we'll take an average, and this is now going to be a screen average. What this does is it takes an average of every value on the screen. So you can imagine, well, since the rows up at top are less than 3, or they're actually closer to 0, and a lot of the rows at the bottom are 3, we can see that the screen average is around 2.5, which makes sense. If we were to pan through our profile, maybe go to a different section, we'll see that the screen average changes, and so does the row average as we switch around. There's a lot of other options for what kind of calculations you can do. Average is just the beginning. You can do minimum, maximum, range, a whole lot. So go ahead and explore that. If you ever want to remove one, you can just press delete down here, and it'll be removed from the calculations that are displayed. Alright, so what we've done in this video is we went from a basic profile, and we created a profile with calculations on the right hand side, tag names listed underneath data, and we also saw how to start adding all different kinds of axes, change the background color, and change what's displayed in the profile itself. Alright, happy profiling.